Hi, everybody. It's Morgan Decoteau. I am one of Keystone's school counselors in the Keystone Guidance Department. And today on KIP's Career Connection, I have my very good friend, Carla Maize. Carla, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? What is it that you do?
I am a school-based speech language pathologist, and I have been doing this particular job for, I thought about today, 20 years. I've been in school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, 20 years.
It's a long time.
That is a long time. So talk a little bit about how you came to be in this career. What led you here?
So I graduated from college. My undergraduate degree was in social work. So I started out doing social work things. I started out working in a county mental retardation center. And I kind of went through many different jobs there. I was first an adult mental health case manager. Then I became a child mental health case manager. And my last job was an early intervention case manager. My job there was I would have to set up services for preschoolers who had special needs. They would either be born like with Down syndrome, or they may have had multiple disabilities, autism. And my job was to set up programs for them where they could receive services to help them grow at any rate that they needed to. I'm sorry, my phone's going off. Let me turn that off. So in that job, I got to learn about and meet a lot of speech therapists. And the more time I spent with them, I thought, you know what, I really kind of like what they do. And I would really like to be a speech therapist. So my husband was very supportive. 10 miles up the road from us is Bloomsburg University, and they have a master's degree program in speech language pathology. I went back to school at the age of 27, and I think there was a cohort of 20 that I went to school with. I was not the oldest one. I was kind of surprised at it. There were two other women that were older than I, but it was a full-time program, and we did it. And the nice thing too is when I was my bachelor's degree, I immediately went on for my master's in social work before I decided I didn't want to do that any longer. So I'd already taken my graduate record examination. I think they still require that for many grad schools. So I already had all those things in place when I applied to go back to school. So that's how I ended up.
You had already started your master's in social work program and then pivoted over. Okay.
Correct.
All right. And I think, I had like a similar career trajectory. To become a school counselor, I was a career counselor working with school counselors. And I thought, you know what, this is really what I want to do. So same kind of thing. A little bit later, went back, got the master's, and now working as a school counselor. So I think it's important to let our students know it's not always a straight career path, right? A straight trajectory.
Right.
You can try I've had so many different career paths in the course of my life, as have you.
Correct.
So, yes.
Yes, and you made me just think of something, talking about different career paths. Oh, but I think we're going to get to that a little bit later. But I just want to say, like, when you do speech language pathology, there's just so many different ways to practice your skills. But I'll get back to that a little bit.
All right. So we talked about what led you to this career. Mm-hmm. What is one thing that would surprise other people about what you do? What would be surprising?
What I like about being a speech pathologist is you work with people. You start from infants and you can work with people up until the end of their lives. And I've done many jobs. I've hit every part of life cycle. I've done so many different jobs in so many different areas that I've done that. And that's what's nice. You can try different jobs. You see what kind of people you like working with. I still love, even though I'm a school-based pathologist, I sometimes do cover for people in nursing homes, and I really love some things about working with that geriatric population. So being a speech language pathologist, you work with people all throughout their life cycle. And the other thing too is there's just so many different settings you work in too. Not just schools and not just hospitals, but you can do long-term care facilities. You can work in daycares. I worked in a psychiatric state hospital part-time for 19 years. There's just so many different places you can work, outpatient, inpatient. There's just so many different things to do. So, and you don't have to know what you want to do. You try different things all the time. Yeah.
So it sounds like there are lots of options, right? So you're not just forced to work in a medical clinical setting. You're not just working in a school. If you decide you want to change institutions or kind of take your skills somewhere else, you can do so. So it sounds like there's a lot of flexibility.
Oh, and also I want to say, in part of being a speech language pathologist is you have to maintain your license, you have to continue learning throughout your career. You have to accumulate, I believe it's 30 continuing education units in, I believe it's a 5-year cycle. So it forces you to continue to be, up to date on what is recommended, what kind of therapies, evidence-based practices going on. So it keeps you in the game. I like that too, because things change over time. There's always new things being discovered and different kinds of protocols that people use. So that's another good point about it too.
Right. Yeah, that is good. And I think not every career has the luxury, right, of that requirement. And I think it is important to stay current, and it is important to stay up to date and abreast so that you're giving the best, most recent knowledge to the people, the populations that you're serving.
Yes.
What would you say are the skills needed for this career? If somebody wanted to do what you do, what would you look for in their innate talent, skills, and abilities? What would be the best thing?
That's a great question. So I believe one of the things that I really appreciated about having my degree in social work before I went back to school was just learning about communication, learning how to be a good communication partner, listening actively to people when they're talking and reflecting back what you're hearing, what they're saying. I think you also have to have some empathy for people. I work with a lot of parents who have students with special needs. Their acceptance level is different depending upon how old the child is, or just their ability to accept this is my child, and these are the needs that they have right now. And so you have to be empathetic when you're talking to people and working with parents, because you never know where they're at on that continuum. The other thing I want to say is to get into graduate school, you need to have really good grades, because there's only so many certain spots in graduate school, and they take the top of the top students. So you need to really focus in on having good grades if you're interested in becoming a speech therapist and going back to school. So you do need a master's degree. I believe now that there are some opportunities to be speech language therapy assistants, but again, you don't get to do evaluations then. You are just following the protocol that a speech therapist has set up for you to follow. So I just say, good communication skills, being empathetic, and working with other people is very important, because oftentimes in schools, we have teams of people that are working with students. So you need to be able to work with a lot of different kinds of people. So, yeah.
Right. So being able to work well as a group member or team member is super important.
Yes. Oh, and the other thing I want to say too, you make me think of things as we talk. There are a lot of paperwork requirements with our job too. You need to learn how to, fill out those, like we have IEPs and develop education plans. You have to know how to write those. And so there's just a lot of those things that you learn, but you don't absolutely learn that in college. You learn a lot when you're doing your job. That's, I think, where you meet, where you learn what you really need to do to be an effective speech therapist.
Right. So you get the theory in school, but then you learn all that peripheral paperwork and record keeping and all those very important regulation requirements on the job from other people in the field, right? From a supervisor or a colleague. Right.
Absolutely. Yes.
Good to know. Yeah. Could you describe for us a typical day for you in school?
Sure.
What does that look like?
Yeah, so I have a position where I actually cover 2 buildings. I'm in our grades 3 to 5 building and our middle school, which is grades 6 to 8. And typically, I want to say in the middle school, oftentimes students who have just, I want to say, articulation issues, like they're substituting sounds, like they're given an F for a TH. Oftentimes when students go to the middle school, we start backing off on providing services for students with those kind of issues, because we really need to look at, is their speech and language impairment inhibiting their ability to participate in a regular education environment? And oftentimes articulation issues are not. So as students get older, we tend to really focus in on the students who have very complex speech and language needs. Autism support is an area that's mostly what I do in my day, is working with students with autistic support needs. Also life skills students who have intellectual disabilities, helping them to continue to learn language and things like that. So that's the majority of the caseload that I work with. I do have a lot of kids at my 3 to 5 school that are articulation errors. So my day is I start the middle school, I do my autistic support students, then I go to my Liberty Valley place, and that's my grades 3 to 5, work there, and then I end my day back at the middle school because they have, at the end of the day, flex period where they don't have core classes. It's like a free period, like a study hall almost. And that's when I can work with my life skills students or any other regular education students. So my day is a lot of autistic support and a little bit of those, I want to say regular education, just speech and language kids. So, but it's nice because it's a variety every day. It's different things I'm doing every day. I like it. It keeps me busy and I like it a lot.
Right. So this would be good for somebody who is extroverted, maybe wants to, have a varied work environment, somebody who doesn't want to sit in a cubicle and do the same thing day after day. Whereas some people are very comfortable and always want to know what to expect.
Right.
You get to travel between buildings, work with different staff members. Every school year you have a different caseload of students. So somebody who likes that kind of an environment.
Absolutely, yes. I love this job. It's a great job, and I would recommend it to anybody who likes to work with communication and language skills. It's a great job.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, we do love those helping professions. What we were born to do.
Yes.
So, Carla, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I think everybody watching our video, our Career Connection today, is going to get a lot more information about being a speech language pathologist and learning what you do on a daily basis and what you need to do to successfully work in that career. So,
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.